Hi all, this is Nick Bryant from Arcadium Academy, and I wanted to show you a little bit about VIM macros today and how you can use them to process data. So what I did was I grabbed a old Mongoose model from a project I used to work on, and you can see from the schema that we have a lot of columns in our database table. Mongoose is the MongoDB driver or ORM for JS. So we have company ID, roles, password, first name, last name, etc. So the goal of this tutorial is going to be to pull all of the columns out of this schema. And you might want to do that if, like, let's say you wanted to provide a list of columns to iterate through to an external service or something like that. Another example where you might use this is if you get an example JSON payload from an API you're working on. You might want to quickly process that payload to get all the keys out of it. So basically with Vim macros, we're going to be able to pretty easily do that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to type VF left paren to get rid of this whole line, and that will seek to the first parentheses on the line. And we're going to make a variable, and we'll call it user keys. Okay, and then this is going to be an array. And we are going to skip to the end, %, for those who are new to Vim, and we're going to delete the rest of this. Okay, so in this list, we want to make basically an array of these keys. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start by building a macro. In order to build a macro, what a macro is it's like a little program that you write that tells Vim, do this series of keystrokes and record it. And then we can just replay that macro as many times as we want. So the series of keystrokes is we're going to start at the beginning of a line, for instance, account type, and we're going to hit QA to record a macro on A. You can record multiple macros on different letters, and we're going to start our macro. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to do F colon to get to the end of the variable, and then we are going to start highlighting. So we'll hit V, and we're going to go to the end of the line. So $, shift $. So now we're on the left paren, and then we can do shift %, to find the matching paren. And now we can hit X to delete everything that is selected. And you can see we basically pulled out the variable name and deleted everything else. And we're going to keep that comma. And now to finish the macro, we're going to hit J to go down and 0 to go to the beginning of the next line. So we hit Q to stop recording the macro. So everything I just did, all of those keystrokes, we can just reuse to kind of do this for every single line. So if I type @A, it's just going to run that whole macro. And if I type $@A, it'll run that macro twice. And if I type 3@A, it'll run that macro 3 times, etc. So I can see there's 4 more. 4@A will run that macro. We have this dev stuff, so we're going to delete that comment. And now this is interesting. This fulfillment profile is a embedded, it's an embedded list of columns. So if we were really just going to do this, and only pull out the top level columns, we could just @A, and it would just only pull that out. Or we could do something like we could delete this, go here, and then we could actually run the macro on each of these lines to get these variables out as well. Just in case you had to. And we can format this a little bit. And now we're just basically left with these matching brackets, which are no longer useful for us. So we're just going to delete them. And voila, we have this array, pretty clean array of all the columns on our user table. And it came from a payload that was not uniform. It had a pattern, and we were able to kind of use that pattern. Think about, okay, how would I navigate this? So when you start thinking in macros, you start thinking, okay, what keystrokes can I do that'll get me to the beginning of the next run of my macro? So obviously you can see it worked out pretty well for us. And the best part about this is if you have like 1,000-line JSON file or a huge CSV, you can use these macros to parse incredibly large amounts of data. Eventually, Vim does start to slow down, but it's still very useful. And then, just to showcase a little bit more of the power of Vim, if we wanted to put all these on the same line, we could just say 12 Shift J, and here I see there's 5 more lines, 5 Shift J, and just keep going. So, it's pretty easy to clean up data. Macros kind of changed the game for me in Vim, and that's kind of why I use Vim as my main editor, as well as things like Shift J, and there's just a lot of really good stuff you can do. So I hope that was a helpful tutorial, and if you like it, let me know. Just send me a message or an email or a comment. I'd love to hear back from you. Thanks.